On this episode, we discuss converting our energy. At times, thoughts transfer into emotions and get stuck there. Then there are certain emotions we need to get rid of altogether. Tune in as we speak about staying focused, the gift of time, and how to convert energy into fruit we actually want to eat. You already know where, right here on LifeClub.
I'm Tashima Jones. Welcome to LifeClub. I genuinely believe personal development unlocks the door to the abundant and wonderful life we all already have. I also believe we must be intentional about seeking out that life in order to find and fulfill it. I am so grateful your journey of discovery has led you all the way here. Let's keep moving forward together. Once again, welcome to LifeClub with me, Tashima Jones. Hello. Thank you so much for tuning in to LifeClub with me, Tashima Jones. Super excited that you are rocking with me. We will be focusing on converting our energy. Yes, converting our energy. So actually, this kind of was birthed out of last week's conversation and a few phone calls I had during the week. If you have learned anything from a LifeClub, you know emotions are really energy in motion. They start as thoughts and they end as a substance we experience in the 5 sensory realm. Yes, thoughts are things. They are seeds that we sow and we water, and they transform into material matter. And one stop along the way of this birthing process is our emotions. I always say true science proves spiritual truths. It doesn't discredit it. So today's focus, once again, is on power and converting our energy. Now, I'm not about to front and act like I am well versed in this subject scientifically, but what I do know is that profound wisdom is locked up in simplicity. So we are just going to start with an equation. So the equation for power is P equals a work divided by elapsed time. And the equation for energy itself is energy equals power times time. Once again, the equation for power is P equals work divided by elapsed time, and energy is power times time. Now, we're going to dissect this. So when we think about energy and we think about our emotions, and when you feel a thing welling up on the inside of you, it literally causes you physically to react. Oftentimes it may just be that feeling, that sensation. Other times it might cause you to act and behave in a specific way. It even has the ability to shift your thoughts and your thinking for a moment's time. And if we allow time to elapse and we allow time to pass by and we continue to meditate on this thing, this thought, this idea, it eventually becomes us and we act it out in the 5 sensory realms. So when we speak about converting that energy, once we receive a thought and we meditate on it long enough for it to create in emotion, we at that moment have the ability to shift that energy into the way that we desire to go. Now, oftentimes we have more trouble shifting our negative energy than we do our positive energy. Oftentimes we may be happy for less time than we are sad, angry, or frustrated. And what I have come to know is that first and foremost, you choose your thoughts. You have the power, that superpower that I truly believe is of our human, inheritance, is this power to choose. You have the ability to choose what you're going to drink, what you're going to eat, and yes, even what you will think. And I truly believe, and this is a point that will stand the test of time, and as long as Life Club is here, this will totally be a principle of what it is that we speak about and learn about on a regular basis. And that is, we have this power of free will to choose our thoughts. And I truly believe that once you start to put that in action, once you start to put that truth in practice, you will have a much more peaceful inner life, inner world, if you will. So first, we always have to recognize that we have the power to choose our thoughts. So we choose a thought. Now, these thoughts don't necessarily, the emotions that these thoughts create don't necessarily have to be converted, because if it's a good thought, if it's a happy thought, if it's a thought rooted and grounded in life, we probably don't want to convert that energy. We probably just want to feel free and flow in that energy. So we're going to specifically talk about well, you know what? It'll be twofold. So we're going to talk about how we convert that feel good energy into something tangible. And then we'll also speak about how we convert toxic energy into something that will produce good fruit. So I'm first going to start with that good energy, with that hashtag good life. When we have our thoughts, when we have an idea, when we have an emotion that feels good and that is also good for us, because everything that feels good doesn't necessarily mean it's good for us. So that is phase one. Make sure that the thought you are taking and choosing to meditate on, aka chew on and extract all those good nutrients from it, is a good thought that's good for you. And the way to really judge whether or not a thought that feels good is good for you and is also good for you is to go through like a checklist. Like, again, we know when we're playing ourselves. And sometimes we try to call that friend that we know is going to agree with our ratchetness. And oftentimes it leads to destruction. So we have to be transparent. We have to be real with ourselves and the choices that we are making, and recognizing a good thought from a thought that leads to true life. We have to be conscious of that. And again, we have to be transparent, aka so clear, so truthful, so real, so honest with ourselves and spirit. That light can actually pass through. So if that thought passes the transparency test, then we go in and allow it to impact and influence our emotions. Oftentimes, we don't allow ourselves to just feel good. Like, when was the last time you just sat down and you was like, I feel good and I just want to bask in this joy? Oh, let's just take a selah on that. We have to be okay and unafraid about sitting in joy. Once again, sometimes we're so afraid to feel good because we think the feeling is going to go away. And whether it goes away or not, you're feeling it then and in that moment. So why not bask in it? Why not appreciate the goodness that is flowing through you on the inside of you? And that's truly the issue with converting these feel-good thoughts and emotions to something that we can produce in the five sensory realm that feels good and looks good, is because we don't even allow ourselves to meditate on it long enough and fear that it'll be fleeting and it won't produce, or that even when we produce it in the natural realm, that it'll be swept away. That's some good stuff right there. Oftentimes, we don't even allow ourselves to sit still and feel good. Because if a lot of us did that more often, I truly believe the world would be a better place. Because when you feel good, you don't want anybody else to not feel good. You want to pass that good vibration forward. So allowing ourselves to sit with a good thought, whether that thought is focused on something internal or focused on a relationship or focused on finances or focused on parenting, whatever the case may be. A lot of times people try to get away and go on vacation to feel good. And I truly believe life itself should be a vacation. Every day, wherever you are, should feel like a day at the beach. And it truly can when you allow yourself to sit still and occupy that space of feeling good. Isn't it interesting that you can get up, take a flight, and go away and feel good for the moment, knowing and even planning to come back to a hot mess of a situation? But you have to recognize that the power you had to take a vacation and to set aside time to not think or not worry about the things that you don't like and don't desire in your life, that too can occur on your everyday situation. You can truly put that on your schedule every single day. The same way you planned that trip, the same way you got on that flight and you went to the beach, the same way you basked in that sun is the same way that you can live your life on a regular basis. But once again, a lot of times people don't see that there could be goodness in their life on a regular basis, and it's only something that they can carve out on their schedules. Yeah, let's just take a deep breath right there. We have to understand, once again, that power that we have of free will to truly choose a thought, to truly choose to meditate on that thought and bask in that thought. And then once you get a little cozy and comfortable in that thought, you can actually manifest a good thing from it, aka produce something that we can see, touch, taste, feel, and smell in the five sensory realm. And that's truly the process of anything that we see, any gadget that we use, any interactions that we may have. It's literally a manifestation of a thing that was first birthed in spirit. Remember, our heart and our minds are wombs for ideas to get through, to gain access into this natural world. And you can do this on a regular basis. So this process of converting that feel-good energy into something that you can actually experience in the natural is the same exact process that we have when it comes to toxic thoughts and ideas. You get this thought, you meditate on this thought, aka water, and cultivate it within that inner garden. You allow it to move through your emotions, aka energy in motion, and that energy in motion will well up on the inside of you and cause you to act physically. So part of the reason why we have such difficulty with producing those feel-good vibrations on the surface, on the things in the natural world, is because, number one, we don't allow ourselves to even think on a good thought long enough. And it's partially because of the fear of it not working out, or it not being successful, or it being taken away. So once we get through those barriers of understanding that whatever it is that you meditate on, you can produce, you need to have laser sharp focus on that thing. Because this is the other thing. Thoughts can be really, really great, but they also can be distractions when it is a thought that is unproductive. So I don't know if you guys, go to the local market and you pick up some fresh fruits and vegetables, but you can't just pick up any vegetable or fruit that you see. Oftentimes they're bruised. Some of them should not go home with you, basically, depending on where you go. So you have to take your time and actually pick through your thoughts, because every fruit and vegetable in that basket doesn't necessarily mean that it's yours or something that you should pick up. And then it depends on the dish that you're making. If it requires green peppers and onions and all this good stuff, then you have to know, okay, these are the fruits and vegetables that I'm looking for this specific dish. Choosing thoughts is like choosing fruits and vegetables. It's really, again, that superpower, and us exercising that superpower called free will to choose a thought, and then understanding the thoughts that you need to get you from point A to point Z. Because this is the problem with good thoughts. Every good thought is not a thought that you need to produce. So some of us are blessed with this issue of being flooded with too many good thoughts, and you find yourself not doing anything because you don't know which direction you need to go into. So that's another barrier that comes along with producing the good vibrations and the thoughts of goodness and fullness and abundance. You're just doing too much. That's like you going to the market and getting every basket of every fruit and vegetable that you see when you only needed about 2 or 3 of them to make your dish complete. Once again, we are speaking about converting your energy. And right now we're focusing on converting good energy into something productive that we can experience in the natural. First, you have to be unafraid to sit still and bask in the joy of having a really good thought and allow that thought to manifest itself first as energy, aka emotions. And when we get to that space of allowing ourselves to produce the feel-good emotion, we can then move forward to manifest that thing in the natural. So you get an idea. You get an idea to start a business. You get an idea to lose weight. You get an idea to revamp your website, whatever the case may be. You get an idea to do some good. You get a really, really feel-good thought. Sit with that thought. Meditate on that thought, cultivate that thought, nourish that thought, water that thought. You guys should really try to say all of these beautiful words daily. They just make you feel so darn good. So you get this good thought, and then you start to meditate on it, chew on it, get all the good nutrients out of it. Allow it to move you within your emotions, and then take that same emotion and convert it into produce, convert it into something that you can actually see, taste, hear, or smell, and all that good stuff in the natural realm. And when this happens, so other thoughts, like it's like this stream of consciousness that's connected to a thought. When you meditate on one thought, everything that is needed to produce that thought will soon follow. You'll start seeing things in your 5 sensory realm when you're going to the store, when you're going to the market, when you're surfing online, when you're talking to your friends. Things will just start to come to you. Ways, methods, strategies, opportunities, people will flood their way to you because you are carrying this seed. And I truly believe that everything that is needed to produce this seed into the fruit that it's supposed to bear is already provided. You just have to be conscious of what you need. And even if you're not conscious necessarily of what you specifically need, just be conscious of the thought, be conscious of the idea. And everything else will be sure to follow. And I can speak of so many things that have happened in my personal life when I chose to focus on a good thing, on a good thought. Now, once again, you get that good thought, you meditate on it, you allow it to morph into energy, emotion, aka your emotions. Those emotions move you to act physically. You start reading different books. You stop talking to certain people. You stop listening to certain music. You start visiting different places. It starts to literally become you. This feels so good right now. Yes. So it literally becomes you. You literally start to morph into that thought. You literally start to produce the actions and the conversations and the language that is associated with this thought coming to fruition. You just keep meditating on it. You keep watering it, and slowly but surely it will start to grow. I oftentimes speak about pepper, my plant that I planted, some seeds that I planted from a salad a little over 2 years ago. And I started in like a little laundry detergent cap, and it flourished to the point where I actually was able to literally eat pepper from it. And that process itself showed me that when you take care of a thing and when you tend to that garden, you will surely manifest the fruit that you're supposed to manifest. And the same is true for toxic thoughts. And y'all know I don't like talking about toxicity and using these negatively toned words, but for this installment, I will do my best. So the process is true for toxic thoughts. You have a thought. You meditate on that thought. You extract all of the toxicity that is associated with that thought. It's just like some of the food that we eat. And oftentimes, this is not necessarily turned into good energy. It may not be, when you think about food, it may not necessarily be energy at all. It just might be waste. That's some good stuff right there. Yes. So when you take a negative thought, when you take a low frequency thought, when you take a thought that does not bear forth the fruit that you want to eventually eat from, and you meditate on that thing, you will produce something from it. And oftentimes it's the things it's the issues of life. It's the challenges. It's the strain. It's the stress. Like literally that stress is a manifestation of the thoughts that you carry. And once again, I totally understand that everything that happens in life is not a product. And this is good or bad. It's not necessarily a product of your thoughts and your actions, but oftentimes it is. Oftentimes we are swimming in the swamp of our own thoughts. Let's just take a deep breath on that. Oftentimes the challenges that we face on a regular basis stem from the thoughts that became emotions, that became actions, that produce something that we experience in the 5 sensory realm. And this all goes back to that superpower that we have as human beings to choose. That superpower we call free will. And when you wrap your mind around this, and you don't even have to feel it on the inside of you, when you just start to meditate on that thought alone, that I have the power of free will, I have the superpower of choice, the more you meditate on that, the more empowered you would become to start making decisions differently, first starting at your thoughts. Yes, I'm getting so much more comfortable with these moments of silence. Just the silence itself feels good. So once again, toxic thoughts are produced the same way that those of good vibrations are produced. You take a thought, which is a thing in the spirit world. You choose it, you meditate on it, you allow it to convert itself into energy and motion, aka emotions, and then you allow it to influence and impact your behavior. And the reality of the matter is that oftentimes we don't recognize that those thoughts are not necessarily our own. Once again, if you are an avid listener of LifeClub, you would have learned that wisdom has been here long before us, and it will be long after us. So there is nothing new under the sun. There is no new knowledge. The only thing that is popping up or appears to be new is that someone tapped into that stream of consciousness and produced it in the earth so that we can all see and perhaps eat from it. But there is no new wisdom being created. Once again, there was this cool story. I have to do my research on it, but the story was cool. How at some point in history, a genius was literally a holy entity, a holy spirit that visited people and gave them information and wisdom and knowledge from the spirit realm. And they were chosen to produce that thing in the earth. And then over time, the genius became the man. But at one point, it was looked at as this Holy Spirit that literally encountered a human being and gave them some gems and jewels to produce. We have to understand that our power to choose is literally made up of 2 things. It's the good vibrations or those that are low. There's only 2 categories of thoughts. And then the subcategories of those thoughts is the infinite intelligence that we encounter on a regular basis. And oftentimes we don't even realize it. So you are not necessarily coming up with a thought. You are choosing a thought. Because we've all experienced moments where seemingly random thoughts came to us. And they could be really, really great thoughts that prove to be productive, or some that aren't so great. But either way, always remember and always go back to understanding that you have a choice in what you meditate on. Once again, we are speaking about converting your energy, taking a thought, which is a thing, and allowing it to produce itself in the natural world. And we talked about how thoughts are things in the spirit realm, and we have this superpower of free will to choose the thoughts that visit us. And once we choose that thought, we will naturally meditate on that thought, water it, cultivate it, extract all of the nutrients or the toxicity depending on the nature of the thought, and eventually produce that thing. And we started with two equations. We started with the equation for power, which is a work divided by elapsed time. And we also started with the equation of energy, which is power times time, or power multiplied by time. And the significant piece in each of those equations is time, because once we recognize that we have this power of free will to make a decision and to choose a thing, we then have this space, aka time, in between receiving this thought and manifesting this thought. And I think a lot of people get lost in between. So I wanted to sit there for a little while. Now, if you know me, you know I have an interesting perspective of time. I truly believe it doesn't exist. However, I am part human, so I have to obey the laws of time to a certain extent. And what I have chosen and what I've realized in this concept of time is that it's truly on our side. So imagine if every thought we had would manifest itself the moment we received it. It would literally be like Tetris when all of the blocks are building up on you and then it's just like the game is over. And we probably don't want that to happen. So when we, especially when those thoughts are toxic. So when we recognize that time is on our side, we start to use it much more wisely. Again, time is literally space in between events. It's literally just space in between events. And that is so major, so vital, so important, because when you understand that time is not against you, you can then use it for what it is intended for. And time is literally intended for us to grow, for us to be nurtured and to nurture a thought, for us to enhance our perspective of life, ourself, and spirit in general. Time is I was about to say something. It was probably going to be profound, but I stopped myself, so it had to come back to me. But time is used to produce. It's used to cultivate. Again, nobody wants to have a baby prematurely, because in that process of being in the mother's womb, that child is developing, that child is being nourished, that child is growing fingers and toes and eyes and hair and a nose. Everything is being molded and shaped. And the same is true for us when we enter into different seasons of our life. We too are being molded. We too are being shaped into the thing that we want to produce. And the amazing thing about that is while we are being molded and shaped over time, we can co-create in the process of producing a thought. So remember the pepper plant that the pepper seed that I planted a few years ago? It literally took me 2 years to get 2 peppers. And throughout that time, I got to know this plant. I got to know when it really needed water. I got to know when I had to repot it. I got to know how much sunlight it needed. I got to really know this plant, and I got to fully understand the process of it going. And one of the major things that oftentimes people try to escape is this concept called process. Nobody wants the process, but everybody wants the fruit. And if you were wise enough, you would understand that the victory is in having the seed. Because if you get one fruit, technically, you can just replant the seeds that are in that fruit. But because we're on Life Club and we're just using this as a story, you have to choose the seed over the fruit, because the seed itself could bear so much more fruit than just having one fruit. So don't run away from the process, aka the space and in between receiving a good thought and manifesting that good thought. That's so important, so vital. Do not run away from the process. Now, when we think about it, we have to understand that this is just pertaining to those thoughts of goodness and high frequency waves. Don't run away from the process of producing that thought into a thing that you can experience in the five sensory realm. Now, when it comes to those toxic thoughts, we should never allow the toxic thought to become an emotion. It's kind of like that garden when a person who is caring for the garden sees a weed growing or sees, certain things that aren't fruitful or productive to grow in the seed, they get rid of it. So that's what we have to do when it comes to toxic thoughts. We have to be mindful of those toxic thoughts. And if one does get snagged in to our thought process, we have to prune it. We have to literally destroy it. And I always say this concept of surrender is letting go of one thing and grabbing onto another thing. It's never just being void of anything. So when we do have a negative thought, we have to convert that thought into something that we actually want to produce. And oftentimes, the negative thoughts are coming to contradict the good ones that you have. Yes. Oftentimes, the negative thoughts are usually a direct opposite of the desired thought that you really want to meditate on. But when you see it as a thing that is distracting you, aka taking you off track, removing you from one path and trying to put you onto another one, you have to be steadfast, you have to be focused, and you have to recognize, once again, your power to choose. It's as if you're going to the beach or you're going to take your trip, and then some random person says, hey, how about you come with me to the store? Now, if you know you have to catch a flight, and you know your friends and family are waiting for you at the airport, you're probably not going to go with this random stranger to a random store that probably doesn't even exist. You're just probably not. You saved up for those tickets. You got your whole outfit ready. Suitcases packed. And you're probably not going to let this person distract you. You're just probably not, because you're on a road to somewhere. You have a destination. You are focused. And when you are focused on a destination, it makes you much more sensitive to distractions. But once again, if you don't know what dish you're cooking, you might just pick up every fruit and vegetable that's found available. And while those fruits and vegetables are good, they may not be productive because they are not in the recipe that you're about to prepare. Because good things, good people, and yes, even good thoughts can be a distraction. So you have to understand the journey that you're on. You have to understand the road that you're on. And even if you don't have a very clear picture of where you're going, as long as you know you are going somewhere that is right for you, you cannot be distracted. And oftentimes we all know where we're going. We may not know how we're getting there, but we know where we're going and we know what's not going to get us there. And I always say, knowing what you don't like and you don't want is just as important as knowing what you do desire and would like to have. So being mindful of those things is so imperative to you actually converting this thought, this energy into a thing that you would eventually want to digest. So remember to appreciate the time, aka the space in between having a thought in your mind and having a thought manifest itself as a thing in the natural world. Once again, remember to exercise your power to choose, aka that free will. You have the power to choose your thoughts. I don't think I will ever stop saying that. You have the power to choose your thoughts. And the moment that light bulb goes on and you see it, the moment you recognize that, your life will forever be changed. I wanted to go into this concept of practice, aka disciplining yourself to do a thing on a regular basis. These things and these concepts may not come easily because we have to unlearn so much of the toxicity that we picked up along life's journey. So in that space between a thought and the natural thing that we see, that's the product of that thought, we have to appreciate that space, aka the time. And in that time frame, we have to put things into practice. We have to discipline ourselves to, basically, you have to train yourself to do a new thing. You have to train yourself to do a new thing, because oftentimes these things don't come easy, but they are so well worth the effort. If you're going to the gym and you have a goal of losing 10 pounds and you go to the gym one day in a week, if you give up from that one day because you haven't lost the 10 pounds, you'll never lose the 10 pounds. And it's interesting because oftentimes we put so much practice and so much effort and so much work into the natural thing and the physical work of it and the physical labor of it. And we totally disregard the one thing that will allow us to gain access to that thing that we want. And that is our thought life. Because if you see yourself never losing the 10 pounds, you're never going to lose the 10 pounds. And even if you do lose the 10 pounds, it's going to be a rocky road. But when you understand why you want to lose the 10 pounds and you understand how your body works, and mentally and spiritually, you see yourself losing the 10 pounds, you will probably lose more than 10 pounds. And it won't become a fad. It will become a way of life. If you are just tuning in, this is Life Club with me, Tashima Jones, and we have been speaking about converting our energy, aka our emotions. And it really starts with a thought. We spoke about thoughts being things and how those thoughts, once they're meditated on, aka watered, nourished, and cultivated, become energy in motion, which are basically our emotions. And those emotions lead us to act physically and produce a thing in the 5 sensory realm. We spoke about power and this equation being work divided by elapsed time. And we spoke about energy being power multiplied by time, and recognizing that time is literally space in between receiving a thought and that thought manifesting itself, and everything in between is process and development. Time is truly on our side when it comes to the ways of life. We spoke about our superpower as human beings to choose. And when we recognize that we can choose a thought, our life is literally changed. So if you don't walk away with anything else from this installment of Life Club, I want you to walk away with this truth and with this reality that our words produce things, and thoughts, emotions, words, and everything that we want to hashtag manifest are all linked together. They are all a part of this process we call life. Remember, we are all wombs on this earth, and we are constantly producing things. And the key to producing what it is that you truly want and you truly desire is tapping into your stream of consciousness, your paradigm towards life, and the thoughts that you are choosing to meditate on. Life Club never ends. I just have to go and we just have to meet again next time. As always, thank you so much for tuning in with me. You could have been anywhere else in the world, but you are here with me on Life Club. You can find pretty much everything that I have on tashimajones.com. All of my social media contact information is there. You can find articles, videos, and more there, as well as more information on how to join Life Club. Remember your greatness. Talk soon.
I am Tashima Jones, and you've been listening to Life Club. Thank you for tuning in.